Okay folks, welcome to Carlton Black Ops King again. Welcome to my channel for a quick vlog. Right, are you one of these people who says, Brexit, what about it? Doesn't mean anything to me. Are you one of those? Or are you one of those people that say, Brexit, I know nothing about it, so therefore I can't make an informed decision? Either way, you should stop listening to politicians who don't want to tell you what's going on and listen to the facts, the truth, and see how it does affect you, like me, the normal everyday man. Okay, so are you one of those people, one of the millions of Britons who travels on holiday to another part of the European Union, Spain, Italy, France, you can go on, Germany, whatever. If you are you one of those people who brings back your cheap fags? Yeah, you've been there, you get your fags, you bring them back, you bring back your cheap booze. And by the way, as you know, with cheap booze and cheap fags, you can bring back as much as you want. You can fill your car up. As long as you're going to use it for your own personal use, then there's no problem with it. Anyone who brings back food from those countries because you like your bratwurst or whatever it might be, all that stops with no deal. Overnight, finished. Are you one of those who enjoys Ryanair's cheap flights, or not just Ryanair, any of the others that fly in and out of Europe? Overnight, no deal, stops. Okay? Are you one of those who basically says, I'll get a cheap travel insurance because if anything happens, we can look at, or more likely, like many Britons, I'm only going to Europe, France, Spain, Italy, Cyprus, Malta. Basically, I won't get any insurance at all. Because if I take ill, I'll just use my e-hit card, what used to be known as the E111. Overnight, stops. You can't do any of that. Are you one of the many millions of Britons whose family lives abroad, particularly elderly? They live in the sun in Spain. By the way, it's not just 800,000 Britons, or expats as we want to call ourselves, who live across in Europe. It's millions, and I'll tell you why. Because if you live in Spain, or you live in southern France, or you live in Italy, or you live in Malta, or you live in Cyprus, frankly, it's not worth registering. So these guys don't register. They live there, maybe have a house there, they live there all year round, but they don't register there because it's not worth it. If you live in Germany, Denmark, Holland, countries like us that actually carry out the law all the time with precision, then you have to register. So that's where the numbers come from. So actually there are many, many more people living in this place, in these places, than we actually presently accept. So that's that. Overnight, that situation is going to change, and I'll tell you why that'll change. It'll change because right now you, like me, and like all those other 500 million Europeans, are citizens of the European Union. So basically, you have a right to be there. You can up sticks today, take your family, and you can go and register your child in a school in any of the 27 other European Union countries. Today, you can do that. You can go and look for work and register, or not register as the case may be, and just work somewhere. You can open a business in one of those 27 countries, which many Brits do. They go to Spain and open a bar or whatever, and don't even register it, frankly. You can do anything you want because you're a citizen. You have exactly the same rights in any of those 27 countries as you do in the United Kingdom. No greater rights and no lesser rights. Okay? You're a citizen. So it's pointless for the police when they see a British registered car in France actually try and ask a person whether you belong here. Yeah? Do you belong in France? I know people who have lived in Spain, example, for 29, 30 years. They've lived there and still haven't registered their cars as Spanish cars, therefore saving them money. Now, see, totally illegal, but the Spanish police aren't going to go looking for you because you are a citizen, and therefore you have to prove somehow that you're not there and you're not registered and you're not living there, and it's a whole lot of hassle for them. Now, in France, northern France particularly, Germany, Holland, Denmark, they're going to actually, because again, like Britain, the countries that deal more with the law, they're going to maybe check you now and then. You might get the odd copper who stops you and says, hey, listen, how long have you been here? you should have changed those plates over, you should have done this, that and the other. They're not going to do that in Southern Europe or Eastern Europe. They're not going to be bothered with it. Right? So what I'm saying to you is you've got total freedom of movement backwards and forwards. You can bring as many goods as you want right now, backwards and forwards. And as I said, you can get healthcare when you need it. So all those elderly Brits, and I'm sure everybody listening to what I'm saying right now has some family, friend, whatever, who lives in the European Union and is elderly and has an illness and is taking up that health services resources. Particularly in Spain, you will see that there are literally millions of Brits, elderly Brits in Spain, getting very, very good healthcare, superior to the United Kingdom, by the way, and paying nothing for it. Why? Because they're a European Union citizen. That will end. Overnight, it's gone. So all these people having chemo, all these people having operations on their heart, having knee operations, hip operations, which they get very, very quickly in those countries, gone overnight. And they're going to have to pay for it. So what will that mean? That will mean that you get a whole lot of sick Britons, elderly Britons, who are going to cost the National Health Service even more money coming back to the United Kingdom. So what I'm saying is, regardless of who you are, this actually matters. So it's imperative that you actually take note and think about what's going on. If you want to give your children the great opportunity to travel where they want to do, when they want to do, within the European Union, without having to try and get a visa like you do in the United States. So if you're one of the literally 5 million Britons who've got a criminal record, okay, the likelihood is you may not be able to travel to Spain. You may not be able to travel to Italy. You may not be able to travel to France. Just as it is when you try and travel to the United States and you go to the American embassy and he says, sorry mate, you've got a criminal record, we're not letting you in. Yeah? And that might have been 40 years ago, but the Yanks just say no, because you have to have a visa. And if we overnight fall out without a deal, that is what will happen. And as I said before, when you try bringing your beer back and your cheap fags and your food, when you land in the United Kingdom, the customs will be waiting. This is what tariffs mean. Oftentimes people who are not political, don't understand what they mean by tariffs. This is what tariffs means. The customs will stop you, British customs, and they'll say, how many bottles of beer have you got? Where did you get them? Right, if this comes into Britain, you will have to pay 3 times as much, because as you know, a beer is 3 times as much in Britain as it is in Spain. So you will have to pay the difference. You will have to pay the duty on that beer. You'll have to pay the duty on those fags, because they won't be cheap anymore. You're paying for them. All because you're no longer a part of the European Union. So when they tell you it doesn't matter to you if we leave the European Union, understand it does matter to you, the normal person. It may not matter to them, to your Boris Johnsons, who can leave and they'll still have their champers coming through because they can afford it. It makes no difference to the rich man. What a lot of poor people don't understand, Europe means nothing to the rich man. He will still be able to move backwards and forwards. You may well have noted that Nigel Lawson, he is living in the south of France. Yeah, he's a big man for Brexit, but he lives in the south of France. Why? It doesn't affect him. He's a multi-millionaire. It's not going to cost him anything, because if he's paying an extra 10%, 20% to say, oh, I'm British by myself, he's happy with it. He's happy. Right? Are you happy paying an extra 10%? So when you're sat on the beach and you want to make your cheap telephone call, because you're part of the European Union, because the tariffs are the same throughout the European Union, when that jumps up to what it was about 5 years ago, so instead of you paying 5p a minute, you're now paying £1 a minute, are you going to be happy? Lawson might be happy. Boris Johnson might be happy, but are you going to be happy to pay £1 a minute again? Because you've fallen out of the European Union without any agreement? Listen, I'm telling you, it's dead simple. If you're a member of a club, I'm not bothered what club that is, boxing, football, hockey, golf, knitting, I'm not bothered what the club is. If there is a club, its members get a better deal than people who are outside it. Even if you bring guests into that club, you're still going to have to pay for them. Because that's the essence of a club. Otherwise, nobody would be a member of the club. And that's why I'm saying to you, don't listen to idiots who turn around and say, oh, we'll be better off outside the club. And something else I'm going to say to you. The new Foreign Secretary said the other day, 2 days ago, it will take 30 years for Britain and the European Union to get on if we fall out. Who will get the worst of that? I'll tell you. There's 27 of them, so if we fall out with them, there's 27 of them still looking after each other, still moving between each other, still having the fun that they're having with each other. We will be sat by ourselves. Yes, you can go to the United States, but as I said, you need a visa. There's no special arrangement for you to go to the United States. No more special than there is for you to go to anywhere else. You get no benefit of going to the United States above and beyond any other country. Whereas, if you're a European Union member now, you just travel freely in Europe. I'll tell you something else. The United States doesn't like the European Union. The present incumbent government. Why? Because it can't push it around. Because it's powerful. So what it's doing right now is it's trying to make deals to get a way into Europe, the way it used to be via us. They're trying to do those deals now with the French. So they're trying to use the French to get into Europe. So our influence with the United States is even being lost. Now, I know you don't care about that because that's politics. But what I'm trying to say to you is there's downsides on everything from this. The only true and real way for the average person, you and me, to enjoy their life the easiest way we can without having to go to France on holiday or Spain on holiday or Malta on holiday or Cyprus on holiday and then having to pay for a very expensive, like you do when you go to the United States, for an expensive health insurance. Right now, it's hardly anything. Why? Because the insurance companies knows that you're going to use your e-hit card and your e-hit card's going to give you free healthcare. But the moment we drop out of the European Union and that free healthcare isn't part of it, you'll be paying the same rates you pay as if you go to the United States. The only way to, and that's probably about another, I'd say generally about an eighth to a quarter on your holiday. That's the cost of healthcare. If something, you know, just to buy the healthcare. Nothing's gone wrong with it, just to buy it. Whereas right now, many people don't even bother buying it when they go to Europe because they just use the e-hit card, the E111, if they take ill. So that's another that's just that by itself. So the only way to stop these type of negative things, not being able to bring your booze in, not being able to bring your fags in, not being able to bring your food in, not having cheap telephone calls, not having cheap flights because Ryanair will bump the flight costs up because it can't no longer use the European exemptions. Not to be able to get, if your flight's delayed under European law, you can challenge it and get your money, or a percentage of your money. That's European law, not British law. That'll be gone. So if your flight's delayed, Ryanair won't give a monkey's uncle what you say. You'll get nothing. There are so many things that are European Union regulations, and the way that they function, and the why it is that happens at the European Union regulations, is simply because it's powerful enough, it can make people do what it wishes of them. I end you with this. The British government asked Mark Zuckerberg to come to Parliament to explain why Facebook was interfering in British elections. He didn't turn up. The European Parliament asked Mark Zuckerberg to come to the European Parliament and explain why he was, again, interfering in European elections. Potentially, it hadn't happened. Yeah? Potentially, so it hadn't even happened. Mark Zuckerberg turned up. Why? Because Europe means something. Great Britain by itself doesn't. We have to get past this imperial belief that we still mean something by ourselves. Frankly, we don't. We mean something in a bigger union. That is how we have our power, and we're a powerful body within that union because we've got the union. Outside of it, we're a small country on the edge of Europe. Listen, guys, if you want to subscribe, if you've got any ideas why you're against what I'm saying, if you believe I'm wrong, please come back to me. By the way, I'll leave you with one last thing because I just remembered it because there's a big lorry behind me, right? And you can see it now. Great Britain does not produce, I'll say it again, Great Britain does not produce one mass-produced vehicle. That is a vehicle like Vauxhall, Jaguar Land Rover, Mini, Renault. There isn't one, Nissan. There are no British cars, mass-production cars, made in the United Kingdom. In fact, anywhere that are British mass-produced cars. There aren't any. Rolls-Royce is not a British car company. It's BMW. We call them British marques because what's happened is they've been bought out and the marque is still there as a British company. But it isn't. It's owned by BMW. It's owned by Mercedes. It's owned by Tata, which is an Indian company. It's owned by the Japanese. And all these companies want to sell their goods into the European Union because it's 500 million people. So if there's a choice for them between selling your goods into a market of 500 million people or 63 million people, they're going to move their factories to 500 million people if they have to pay taxes on them, which they will. And this is what tariffs mean. Some people have asked me, somebody wrote in the other day, what are tariffs? Tariffs are taxes on goods which are finished. Okay? It's like, as I said before, when you come back with your cheap booze and then the British customs will turn around and say, oh, that's great, you bought that for £1 in Spain? Right, it sells for £5 here, I want you £4 tax, duty. Right. That's what that means. So if there are tariffs, all of a sudden, they lose out, they're not making money. So the easiest way around that is, we'll produce our cars in Poland, in Czechoslovakia, in France, in Germany, where many of them are made anyway. We'll produce our cars there. Now you might say, oh well, the British will buy their cars elsewhere. What cars are they buying? There are none to buy. We don't produce any, so we can't buy our own. Ford is an American company. Aston Martin doesn't even belong to Britain anymore. It's owned by Kuwaitis and Italians. So what I'm saying to you is, don't fool yourself. Really understand what we actually do produce. And then maybe you'll make the right decision. Remain in the EU. If you want to subscribe, press below. All the best.